Hello everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel where we do painting tutorials. Like always, I start by taping down my paper with some masking tape and I start by coloring the horizon line with some light lemon yellow, and on top of that I go with cadmium yellow. I'm just following the order in which my pencils are. I'm going for a dramatic night sky galaxy here. I want this to be very beginner friendly and I will be using the gradient technique. So after I have applied the yellow for about half of the sky, I switched to my light green and I applied a bit on top of the yellow, and I also use it going upwards. So at about 1/3 of the sky, I color with some light green. Then for the rest of the sky, I cover it with some phthalo blue, which is my light blue color. And for the very top side where the tape is, I will use some helio blue reddish, which is my darkest blue. Feel free to use any yellow, green or blues you have in your set. You don't need to absolutely use the same exact tones and shades. I'm just naming whichever ones I pick in case you have the same set as me, but I also give you the alternatives like light blue, dark blue, etc. I also add a hint of black to the top corners because I want this to be a night sky, so I want the top to be very, very dark and intense. And I start activating and blending from light to dark, so from the horizon upwards using horizontal brush strokes. I tap my brush into the water jar, I do a straight line across, I tap my brush again in the jar, then I do another line, and that way until I reach the top. Once everything is activated, then I proceed to actually blending. I find this technique to be the easiest with watercolor pencils when you're using a normal wooden handle watercolor brush. While that dries, I repeat the same exact steps on the bottom side, which is going to be a lake that reflects the galaxy sky. I use my light yellow and my cadmium yellow to the portion that is closest to the horizon. Then in the middle section, I use my light green, and I'm going to finish this off by applying my phthalo blue and my helio blue on the bottom side. I will not be adding black to the bottom, to the lake, because I want my foreground that is framing the picture to be black, and if I paint the lake black, then you won't be able to see the trees and bushes that I'll have, which will be black. I hope that made sense. And I activate this using the same exact technique for the sky. I get my brush wet, I do a horizontal line with it just to activate everything, then I add more water, do another line beneath, then I add more water, do another line beneath until I finish the area. And since everything is wet, it is nice and flowing on top of the page, and I just move it around with my brush to make sure it flows nicely into each other and just blends and ends up looking as smooth as possible. I'm not going for 100% perfection, I just want this to be smooth and dramatic, but if you get a weird line, that's perfectly fine, or something that dries like you don't want it, that's fine. If you don't like it, you can always cover it up. Don't stress, this is a very easy beginner's tutorial. If you get streaky lines, it may be a hazy sky, do not stress over it. Once everything is perfectly dry, and I do underline perfectly this time, you want this to be 100% dry, I take my black and I draw a straight line across my painting between the sky and the lake, and then a wiggly wobbly line on top of that for a mountain. I color any chunky bits, which are where the mountain goes up, basically hills or peaks, I'm not sure what you call it in English. And then with a sharp point, I draw some tree branches that are framing this night sky, this galaxy painting. I just do a branch that comes from almost the angle, and then more branches that break off those branches. If drawing is not your thing, there is going to be a traceable available on my Patreon page, Sunshine Arts, and also we do full-time tutorials there, exclusive content, and digital downloads. So yeah, if you're interested in that and supporting me and the channel, you can find that in the description box down below. Also, all of the supplies I've used, the pencils and the brush, will be linked as well. And there is no reference picture for this because I drew this from imagination. It was like 1 a.m. the previous night, so I just sketched this on my nightstand. So yeah, there's no reference, I'm sorry. But anywho, once I finished of the branches, I add some tiny dots or scribbles at the end of each branch to make it look like some leaves, some foliage, dried up branches. You get where I'm going for with this. And I also did some foreground in black, like I said, and I added some twigs and some bushes that are growing on top of it with black, and I'm going to add some dots on top of those as well. I also do some random ones in the sky, like some leaves that were blown out by the wind, and I very lightly hover beneath the mountains to add their reflection on the lake, very lightly. If there are some bits in the mountains or in the foreground that are not jet black, like you can see the white of the page under them, I just take my brush with barely any water on it and I go over them to activate it and make it more saturated and more vibrant by doing this. And when I say almost dry, I mean once I tap it into the jar and I dry it on my napkin, if I touch the brush on my hand, this is a very good test. If I touch the brush on my hand and it leaves a little droplet, it's way too wet. You need to dry it up even further. If it does not leave a droplet, it's perfect. Now for the last bit, I'm going to just add some stars to my sky. You can use some white gouache, white opaque watercolors, acrylic paint, correction pen. You can use white marker, which is opaque. We need something that is opaque. And I'm not using the white watercolor pencil because watercolors, unless stated otherwise by the manufacturer, are transparent. So it's just going to dry transparent. You won't be able to see the stars once they dry. So I dilute my opaque watercolors with some water and I just tap on the brush's handle to add stars. If any go over the mountain or on the branches, I just pick them up with my napkin and that is it. I'd like to give a very special thank you to my Patreon supporters for the month of July and thank you all for watching. Please let me know if you like and find these kinds of tutorials. They're aimed for beginners helpful. If there's something you wish I'd work more upon, let me know all of that in the comments down below and I'll try to get back to you. So thank you all for watching and we'll see each other in the next video. Bye bye!